City Manager.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, item number 8A1 is public hearing for resolution number 6386, which is adopting a new fee schedule for services and for rental facilities. I do have a presentation.
That's not Gardena.
Looks like Chicago.
Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a presentation on our proposed user fee, and it's a study report that was conducted by the city. So first of all, I think it's important to talk about what is a user fee. A user fee is a fee or rate charged to an individual or group that receives a private benefit from the services provided to the city. So some of the basic user fee principles, it's based on the cost for service. It's very important. It's based on the cost for service. It's not to make a profit. It's just for providing the service. Secondly, the fee needs to be fair and equitable. And third, it needs to be compliant with state law. No fee shall be higher than 100% of the cost. Once again, it's not to make a profit. It's to recover our costs for providing the service. The city's fee schedule was examined at least every 3 years. Prior to that, let's say 2014, 13, it hadn't been examined in many, many years. So we did play some catch-up years before, but we're on a path now to do it every 3 years, as the City Council has seen this fee study almost 3 years ago. Currently, one thing I really want to point out is this fee study was done internally using our staff. Prior years, we had to outsource this fee study, but thanks to the dedication and the great work and our folks from finance and admin services, this fee study was done internally, which saved us between $35,000 and $40,000. So really like to thank Administrative Services and the finance team for getting this done for us internally. Also, it's important to note that the more we do this study internally, the more we understand the finer details of ensuring that we are getting our costs recovered and all of the processes that are involved with providing these services. So the fee study does have a methodology, uses a bottom-up approach. We conducted interviews with every employee who performs directly in support of these services. So we need to understand what they do and how they do it so that we can apply the appropriate time based on each portion of this fee. Direct costs are also related to the fees, such as processing time, whatever materials. Some fees require materials and other supplies to provide the service. And then another thing that's added on that is the indirect cost, such as the maintenance, utilities, materials, and other supplies. So it's basically takes into consideration all of the applicable cost for a city to provide the services, including those overhead costs, which many times go unnoticed, but they are expensive. So where are we at now? Currently, the city's recovering about 55.1% of the allowable fees. So as you know, that seems pretty low, and it is. And if you look to the graph to the right, it kind of tells you what departments are recovering and what percentages. And some of them, they're very, very low. I know that the city recently allowed us to do some changes in our animal control contract, and you can see there the recovery rate for that is actually the lowest out of all of them. So what are we proposing? Our proposal is to go up to 65.2%, which will raise essentially about $572,000. The vast majority of that is coming from fees that are associated with community development that are attached to grading, permitting, building permits, those kind of things. That's the vast majority of them, because as we went through this process, we noticed that we were doing it much differently than other cities were. In fact, we weren't actually covering our costs because we were combining a bunch of services that really should have been different. When we're talking about demolition and grading, those are different things. Those are also different things than issuing building permits. So combining all of these in one really put us in a place with other cities that made us unique, but not unique in a good way, in that we weren't certainly recovering the costs that we needed to do. So as you look at the new changes there on that graph, you can see that the recovery rate went up to 65.2%, and I'm going to show you where that puts us in some examples relative to the other cities in our community. So if you look at our neighboring cities, based on the fee study that we're proposing, we're still at the bottom end. This city has always prided itself on being reasonable in its costs, and as you see here, we're still at the bottom end of the recovery fees as it compares to other communities surrounding us. The only one we could not get information for was the city of Hawthorne. We requested it a number of times, but we were just not able to get it from them. But as we look as a city council making policy decisions, you can feel comfortable that we are certainly below the average in the South Bay in terms of the fee recovery. So as I mentioned, some of the proposed changes to building and grading permits is where the vast majority of the, over 500,000, as you see here, represents about 272,000. It's to align, our building permits, our grading permits, and also, believe it or not, once you reached $1 million project, the fees never went up. It just scaled at $1 million. So if the project was $2 million or $3 million or $4 million, it didn't escalate. And then we added a separate set of fees for grading permits based on the volume in cubic yards. All of these changes are consistent with how all the cities surrounding us are doing these fee calculations. So let me give you an example here. This is based on a $1.5 million valuation on a residential project. If you look at all the cities around us, we were absolutely at the bottom by far. The far right, Gardenia's current one, going to where we're at, we're proposing now, we're still below the average on this project. The other one is when you talk about commercial, in this case, we're even a little bit lower than we were on the residential side. Once again, a $1.5 million valuation on this one puts us well below the average. And once again, we were well below the average before the proposal. So there are certain changes that we made, but there are other changes that we didn't because of the changes that affected our community that are high frequency and we know are very important to the community as they use services. So for example, garage sale permits, we left the same. Our parking permits are free. A lot of cities charge for more than one parking permit or multiple parking permits. Our dog license fee stayed the same. A very popular permit is our block party permits. They stayed the same. And fees, our resident fees for facilities stayed the same. In addition, so did our card club permit fees as well, as those have been an issue before in the past. So what we try to do is take a look at fees that are more resident driven, that are high frequency, and that we establish because we're trying to regulate something more than provide that necessary individual service. So what I'm recommending and what our staff is recommending is to conduct a public hearing regarding the adoption of resolution number 6386 and then adopt resolution number 6386 to establish a comprehensive fee schedule which increases the city recovery rate to 65.2%, and as noted before, that's still below the average in the South Bay, and include an annual increase of 7% for certain fees, not all fees, so that we can continue to maintain our competitiveness in the marketplace. The development-related fees to take effective August 15th, 2019, which is 60 days after the adoption as required by law. All other fees will become effective July 1st, 2019. So at this time, I'd like to entertain any questions from the City Council.
Okay, well, first, we're going to open the public hearing at this time. So the public hearing is now open, and before I open it up to council members for comments or questions, Madam City Clerk, are there anybody requesting to speak on this item from the public?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not have any speakers.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments here? Let's start with Councilmember Henderson, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, in regards to, I just want to get a question on our philosophy in regards to departments servicing other departments where they would have normally budgeted to spend that. So for instance, we save 35, 40,000. How do we record that within it? It's just another work task, or do we kind of this department budgeted 40,000, now this goes to this support department's budget, so they earned that 40,000, or we just call it a wash, or how do we record that?
Yeah, I don't want to give the directors any idea that if they save money, they get to keep it, but no, I'm just kidding on that regard. So as you look at, each department has their own line items for different things in their budget. So in this case, contractual services line item would have been used to pay for contractual service to provide this. The fact that they did not have to do that and have realized the savings there means that they can do some internal transfers as long as they're within the bottom line number, if they can identify a better use of that money that was saved. It does give us a lot of flexibility. If they can't, then that just rolls into the bottom line, and we're ending the end of the budget. It would just roll into our general fund budget.
Thank you, that was my question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, how about the alarm permit fees? Where it falls in that category?
Alarm permit fees are a couple of different fees. The first fee is the alarm permit itself, and then the second one is the enforcement for violations of those fees. Once again, we still did maintain all of the waivers for low income as well as seniors.
Thank you.
Councilmember Medina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the traffic tickets and the traffic violations and the parking violations, is that going to remain the same, or is that something that we need to pick up on?
So that is those are fines that are imposed by the city. They were not recovered in this fee schedule. So the parking ticket remained the same, and our traffic tickets, we don't set the moving citation fee fines. Those are done by the state of California, the court system.
Okay, because I've noticed that our like street sweeping or no parking tickets are lower than their surrounding cities, and I just thought I'd ask if that's going to be increased or not.
That's something we can look at. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we're going to go ahead and close the hearing at this time, and I'm going to ask if I can get a motion to adopt resolution number 6386.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Kaskanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Kaskanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next, we're going to move on to item number 8A2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda number 8A2 is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, more commonly referred to as a CAFR, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. The Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been presented to the City Council for its comprehensive financial report for fiscal year June 30th, 2018. This is the 33rd consecutive year that the city has received this prestigious award. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in financial reporting in the United States and Canada. And just to add a couple, additional comments, as you've seen some of the steps that we have been taking most recently in terms of funding, pre-funding our PERS and setting OPEB trust for both our unfunded liabilities is something that just continues to make our financial reporting and our financial conditions even more solid moving forward. So what is required is to receive and file.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? I'm sorry, turn your mic on. Turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry. Congratulations.
Councilmember Henderson?
Mr. City Manager, because we know I'm competitive, who's got a longer streak than us? Just curious, do we know?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer, but I do know there are some cities here that haven't received this award in a long time, or I know there's some cities in LA County that haven't completed their CAFRs.
So we should petition to get our recognition and our big trophy to put in City Hall.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for our community that we are transparent about our finances.
Okay. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and just receive and file that item. No action will need to be taken. And again, congratulations to the finance team. You guys are doing an outstanding job, so thank you. Next, we're going to move on to item number 8A3. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda number 8A3 is resolution number 6393. This kind of piggybacks a little bit on the financial reporting. Is reassigning $7,060,000 of the $15,000 balance that was previously committed to the Civic Center improvement, which is now committed to the pension stabilization that was approved at the last council meeting. As you remember, on March 8th, 2016, the City Council approved Resolution Number 6219, committing $15 million of general fund reserves to the Civic Center improvement, as required by GASB Statement Number 54. At the May 28th council meeting, the City Council approved the reassignment of $7,060,000, $7 million for the pension fresh restart, and $60,000 for taking care of the unfunded liability for our PEPRA employees. And it was previously committed to the Civic Center improvement in order to fund the pension stabilization payments. Pension stabilization payments will fund CalPERS Fresh Start. Those payments have been made, both on the Fresh Start and on the PEPRA unfunded liability, and we have retained $1 million for next year consideration of a possible another version of our Fresh Restart. So it is required by the City Council to adopt resolution number 6393.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments at this time? If not, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6393?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Cascanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henderson, Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka. Yes. And Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next is item number 8C1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, Serta, members of the City Council, agenda number 8C1 is an approval of professional services agreement with Cough and Associates for a citywide classification study with a total cost not to exceed $116,482. The job descriptions serve as an essential tool for the city to effectively manage its workforce. The majority of the city's estimated 170 job classifications, that's amazing that we have that many classifications, have not been reviewed and updated since the classifications were established many years ago, and I say many, many years ago. This has resulted in job descriptions that do not reflect current responsibilities and qualifications. It also reflects challenges we have with internal promotion structures and realignment of responsibilities and duties because many of the classifications are outdated. They are no longer, in the best practices for employment in terms of positions. And there are also many of those 170 that we don't even use anymore. The purpose of the citywide classification study is to develop and updated a well-structured classification system that's legally compliant, internally aligned, and reflective of our current roles, responsibilities, and the qualifications needed for those. The study is anticipated to take 7 months. It is not an easy task because, as I mentioned, 170 classifications have to be looked at. And the total cost should not exceed $116,482. This is funded in a number of different ways because we have 3 major funding sources for this. One, general fund, which is about $67,000 of that. Our enterprise funds, which is GTrans essentially, is about $26,254. And then lastly is all of our other funds, which could be our sewer fund or the other funds that are special funds, which will take up about $22,000 of that. So what is required is the council approve the professional services agreement. This contract will be overseen by our Human Resources Department through the 7-month process.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, could you remind us also when folks ask us how come we didn't take this out to bid, or what the threshold is for department heads and city managers to execute professional services agreements?
Yeah, we did actually go out to bid on this. There was only really one responsive bid for this project, which comes with great experience. If you saw from the documents inside your package, they're one of the most experienced doing this service.
Nobody else responded to this one?
Not within the reasonable amount.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilmember Medina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the recycling fees that were normally subtracted if they take a lot of that asphalt with them. Is that still applicable as we have had in the past?
That's the next item. Council,
okay.
okay, sorry.
Ahead of the game.
I'm ahead of the, I'm sorry.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Any other questions or comments? I do have one. Does this apply also to elected officials as well? And what I'm getting at here more so is, for instance, job like our city treasurer, for instance, as far as what's defined, in that. Would that apply to that as well, as far as looking if that position is still even feasible still?
The elected positions are not part of this classification plan. The duties and responsibilities of the elected officials are governed under the government code.
Okay.
So this is not looking at elected positions.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Coffin Associates?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Henderson and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes.
I'd like to go back and call Mayor Pro Tem Cascadian,
Yes.
and then Councilmember Medina.
Yes, again.
Thank you, and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next is item number 8D1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of City Council, agenda number 8D1 is the approved plans and specifications to award a contract for Normandy Avenue Street improvement, which runs from Redondo Beach Boulevard to Artesia Boulevard, which is job number 920, to American Asphalt in the amount of $677,770. On May 20th, 2019, bids were received from All American Asphalt, Sequel Contractors, Hardy & Hardy, and Sean Nen. All American Asphalt was the lowest bidder at $677,770, and they are the state licensed contractor that has worked with us before and then been verified for successful construction experience in this field. The project will overlay 350,000 square feet of asphalt, remove and replace 6,800 square feet of sidewalk and 100 linear feet of curb and gutter. There are sufficient funds to complete the project because the City Council had previously approved in its capital improvement project budget in 2017-18 funding for this item using Prop C funds. The amount of the expense is about $800,000, which is design, construction, inspection, and engineering. Even though the $677,000 was the bid, $800,000 is the amount that we can spend on this project based on if there's any additional changes that need to be made, et cetera. The funding source is Prop C. The revenue is, once again, $800,000. What's required is to approve the plans and specifications and award the contract to All American Asphalt. As you can imagine, that's a pretty big stretch of a very big, busy street in Gardena, running from Redondo Beach Boulevard to Normandy. It's good timing in that a lot of work had been done on that street by Golden State Water and LA DWP, so certainly improve the conditions on that street moving forward all the way down to Artesia.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions or comments?
Do I have to do it again?
Yes, Councilmember Medina.
Ditto from the last time I spoke with regards to the recycling fees, because we had an arrangement with a lot of contractors that if whatever the recycling fee is at the time, they'll deduct it from the price that we have.
So as we put out the bid, all of those are in consideration. And then your other question earlier was, does anytime we can divert recycled material, it is our responsibility as a city to divert that recyclable material as appropriately as possible.
Yeah, just following up, that's all.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, is there any space on the project where we can put a sign so the community knows it's their Prop C funds that are being expended for this project?
Yes, we'll definitely take care of that. I believe it may be a requirement as well.
Thank you.
I have one question. So what happens if, for whatever reason, we don't use up to the $800,000? Does that money go back to Prop C, or do we find more projects and we can use up to that amount, so we'll find additional things if there are no changes?
Yeah, so those are Prop C allocated funds. I mean, we don't lose them. We wouldn't use them just because we have to. Giving many of the projects, as you see in the city council, have a funding usually higher amount than the award amount, just in case we run into additional changes, change orders. When they get out there, they may run into a problem.
Right.
But let's say everything goes as designed and it's perfect, and they come in on time and on budget, then those monies stay within our Prop C allocation.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve plans and specifications and award the contract to All American Asphalt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a motion made by Councilmember Medina and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Kaskanian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next we're going to move on to council items, directives, and remarks. Tonight, we're going to start with, council directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time? Councilmember Medina.
Yes, this has to do with a lot of the streets that we have that have been, a perfect example is the 158th Street between Normandy and Western. It was perfectly paved, and then they came in and started digging up again, and we had to drive over metal plates, and then we had holes and potholes, and then we had to refurbish it again. Is there any way that both ends can meet and say, we're going to pave this street? Perfect example that we just voted on was from Redondo Beach to Artesia. And 6 months from now, who's to say that Southern California Gas will come in and do something, or we're going to fix some fiber optic stuff and they'll dig it up again?
Councilman Medina, that is always a possibility, but our Public Works and engineers have met on a number of occasions with all the major utilities, and what they do is they kind of go over their, not kind of, they do go over their master plan in terms of what specific capital improvements are going to occur. The reason they do that is to try to align work that's performed so that everyone can get their work done and the street can be resurfaced one time. Now, we'd like the stars to align all of the time. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But it's not because we don't make an effort to let them know, by the way, we have a major, capital improvement that's going from, Redondo Beach Boulevard to Artesia on Normandy. If you have work being done, this is a good time to do it. Remember, if the street has been repaved and it's new, they're responsible for putting it back to that same condition. So it does serve their interest to ensure that they coordinate with us. If they choose not to, which they most of the time do if they can, it certainly saves them a lot of money. With respect to the work that's being done in South Gardena around Gardena Boulevard, 166, 158, all down Dalton and all of those places, Denker, they are far from done. There's still some metal plates out there. That work will be done in one fell swoop. As for economy of scale, Golden State Water gets all of the work done, patches it up, and then they contract with an asphalt company to do all sections in the city, while the contractor is all its staff here, all its equipment here. They can get it done much more inexpensively and more efficiently. The downside, of course, is we have to wait a little longer because they want to get it all done before they do it.
Yeah, because I've had a couple calls from customers, especially on Western Avenue, from basically Marine over to Artesia, and hopefully they're watching and they'll hear the response that's appropriate for their question. Thank you.
Okay, any other directives? Mayor Pro Tem?
It's more like the question. I just want a clarification, Mr. City Manager. The stretch on Vermont between Rosecrans to Gardena Boulevard, where the railroad goes, is that our part or it's LA part? Who manages or who oversee that property?
Well, the first thing is to understand that the railroad has the vast majority of that. So the rail line runs in the middle, and I think it's 12 feet on either side of the rail. Can't quote me on that, but it's 8, 12, 15 feet on either side of the rail is their responsibility. And then there's a little bit of that area that's ours, but it's very, very little. For that section, we've maintained generally just our side, which is the west side of it, but it's very, very little, nothing nothing really to maintain there. It's just like these shrubs that most of them have been cut down now. When you look at going the other direction, though, let's say from Redondo going north, all of that green patchwork a long, long time ago was agreed. Gardena maintains all of it. All the way to El Segundo.
Turn your mic on.
Thank you.
Any other directives? Okay, I have one. Previously, we received a report in regards to our commissioners when we were inquiring about who gets sworn in versus who doesn't get sworn in. And it's kind of been mismatched, maybe Senior Citizens Commission gets sworn in, but not Rent Mediation Board, et cetera. So what I would like to propose, and if the city could maybe bring this back as an agenda item, is I propose swearing in all of our commissioners or board members, because most of them are very proud to have these positions. And I think it's a great way of us just, taking a few minutes to say thank you, swearing them in. It doesn't take much time to do, so I'd like to make that as my directive, and if somebody can second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Serta, if that's the will of the council, then there's no need for it to come back as a agenda item. It's a policy decision, and we will make sure that that happens moving forward.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to city manager remarks regarding our previous directives and council items.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, inside your package is a memo describing the waste resources of Gardena rate increase. This is a formula rate increase that is as a result of our agreement with Waste Resources of Gardena. The city really doesn't have any input in terms of the calculations. It is based on the formula that is in the contract, which they did submit to us. We reviewed, made some modifications as in terms of our interpretation of the franchise agreement. They agreed to our changes, and the result, there's a mutually agreed rate increase there. The next item is there was a complaint that was filed to the mayor. There's information there about the disposition of that complaint. And finally, Councilman Henderson requested information on police officer training. There's a report in your package regarding police officer training. That's very extensive.
Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to our council remarks. First up tonight is Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very quickly, I attended the Cherry Stones Pioneer Project for senior citizens, and the other thing was the Coffee with a Cop and my League of California Cities meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I also attended Coffee with a Cop. I have a complaint about that. It was held at Target. That was the most expensive Coffee with a Cop that I've ever been to. So next time we need to have coffee at a cop with a cop at a coffee shop where there's no shopping. So we'll make sure we take care of that. I also attended the Compton College partnership celebration with El Camino College, as Compton College has now received their full accreditation. So they're now the 114th community college in the state of California. So there's a total of 115. For those that don't know the history, Compton College had lost their accreditation many years ago, and El Camino College was, they stepped in and helped them work through their issues to make sure they got their accreditation back. They didn't get their old number as being one of the former schools, so they got a new number, which is a fresh start. So that was a great celebration as well. I also thank the president of El Camino College for putting their parking structure on Manhattan Beach Boulevard and to relieve the pressure that we have in our community from people at El Camino Park in our community. Also, work with Centinela Youth Services, helping them kind of streamline some of their IT issues and different things like that. So that was a great opportunity as a board member. I definitely want to say to the family of the gentleman that lost his life is that, condolences from our council, and we'll let the judicial process work its way out, and we'll move forward after that. Madam Mayor, so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last council meeting, I made my regular monthly cake deliveries, and for the sake of transparency, the Waste Resources donates the money to have the cakes purchased from Sam's Club. And normally, Rotary used to provide the money, but they ran out of money, and they're about to break down a little bit. So Waste Resources picked up the ball, and they provide the donations for the 7 cakes that we delivered to the 7 convalescent homes, and I'm just a delivery boy. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that I'm not paying for the cakes, I just deliver them. every last Friday of the month. And people from the convalescence homes really appreciate that because they get to celebrate their birthday once a year, or once a month, should I say. I also attended the Southern California Association of Governments on the Transportation Board, and there's going to be some new fees being done by Metro, which Mr. Crespo is very much aware of, and we'll have another meeting Friday to talk about that. I also went to the Veterans Brunch in Hawthorne, where we celebrated the landing at Normandy, and we had a lot of veterans that had parents and family members that also landed in Normandy, and it was very, very, very enlightening. We saw some actual footage of the real landing in Normandy, as opposed to a Hollywood version. So that was kind of interesting and very heartwarming. I also attended the West Basin Water Association, and our water looks good. We have a lot of snowfall that's still melting, and we'll still conserve water, but you don't have to like squeeze a can or anything. We're in good shape. And so I'd also like to say hi to my granddaughter Angelina, who's watching this on TV, and she only comes by once every 3 or 4 months, so I promised her I'd say hi.
Okay, thank you. And for myself, since the last council meeting, I attended the quarterly mayor's conference that Mayor Garcetti has every quarter. And the big topic this time was, well, there's several topics, but the one that probably stood out the most was Los Angeles County Fire Department. They're dealing with PTSD and how they're trying to handle it, and the high rate of suicide that they're noticing amongst some of their firemen. I also attended the South Bay Work Enforcement Board as they had their Fit for Gold ceremony, and along with Councilmember Medina, and we gave several awards to Gardena students who were seniors in high school, as well as they participated in the program by tutoring younger kids at elementary schools, along with teaching them about nutrition, as well as working out with them. And on that same day, I attended Coffee with a Cop at Target, and I too am concerned with the fact that I had to go shopping because I was in there. And also, I attended the funeral services for Los Angeles County Fire Chief, Battalion Chief Mark Tolbert, who worked for LA County for over 30 years. And briefly, he worked a couple of years at a Gardena fire station. I can't remember, it was one of the two, but he did work here in Gardena for a short period of time, so I attended his funeral. And then lastly, I attended the Pentecostal Church of the Fourth Watch, which is located here at 182nd and Western, as they celebrated their 30th anniversary. I'd like to thank Chief Kang for attending that with us. We had a great time. They had it at the Marriott, and it was a really nice celebration. It was a production, actually, because they actually have a TV station at their church, and so it was a really big deal. So that was great attending. And that ends my report, and last up is Mayor Pro Tem Cascanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I also attended the Coffee with a Cup. I didn't spend no money. I just had my coffee, and that's it. So, and I got the opportunity to meet with the Supervisor Janice Hahn, and we generally discussed along with my colleague, Madam Mayor, and Councilman Henderson. Yeah, that's all right. And I asked a few questions to the supervisor. I talked to her. I asked her questions regarding the homeless in generally in LA County, and her response was, "We have tremendous numbers. That the numbers came in. There are over 59,000 homeless in the Los Angeles County." And I talked to her a little bit about our city. I told her what our numbers is and what kind of fees we pay to the state. So it was a very nice meeting, and that's about it. And that's end my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So just a couple of quick announcements here. 3 things going on in the next couple of days. So the first one is Feed SoCal 2019 Food Drive that is being hosted this year in the city of Gardena at Albertsons. It's this coming Friday, June 14th, from 4:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. in the evening. And basically what this is LA Food Bank who is requesting donations. And we're asking residents to come out and donate items, whether you bring them from home or you can go into Albertsons and purchase a $5 food bag at the local one right here on Artesia and Western. And then when you come outside of the store, you can hand it to the food bank personnel, which it'll be a little stand there. And Channel 7 News will be out there all day long filming, and will take periodic breaks throughout the day and through their newscasts, and show the residents as well as city employees who will be donating to the food drive. So we encourage everyone to come out. Again, it's this coming Friday, June 14th, from 4:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Also, this Friday, June 14th, is Flag Day. It will be at 11 a.m. at the Nakoka Community Center, and the keynote speaker will be local District Superintendent Mike Romero. If you'd like more information, you can call City Hall regarding that. And then on Saturday, we have a free hazardous household waste recycling event that will be in Torrance. So that's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and that will be at 1919 Torrance Boulevard. So it'll be an opportunity for you to get rid of some of your hazardous items. So let's see, so tonight we have no remembrances to adjourn in memory of. But at this time, we're going to move on to the adjournment. So the Gardena City Council will adjourn to a study session, which will be at 6:30 p.m., followed by the regular City Council meeting, which will be at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. So we are adjourned at this time.